Hi, my name's Chris Molinar, and today I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process that I use for both listing and selling property, as well as purchasing property. If you'd like our transaction checklist PDF, just send me an email or text message. My info is in the description below. In this particular example, let's say the client's name is Sarah. Now, Sarah is looking to sell their two-story home that they currently own because they are now empty nesters, and after going through the initial consultation with Sarah, we determined a number of different things that will take place during their transaction. Number one, we had the conversation about should we list first or should we buy first. Now, Sarah has the financial wherewithal to want to purchase first in order to sell the property afterwards. This is a very important part of the process if they're looking to buy and sell. You need to be able to explain to them the best case and worst case scenario on whether they buy first or sell first. If they buy first, they might be stuck owning two properties. And so you need to be able to explain to them what is the saleability of the property I currently own and what is the likelihood of the specific product that I'm looking for coming up onto the market, or is there anything available currently right now based on what your search criteria is. In this example, Sarah was looking for a bungalow style condo, which is more of a rare, unique product and doesn't come on the market all the time. So because they had the financial wherewithal, they were waiting for the right product to come up, and we did a consultation with them regarding the purchase and sale process. And after taking a closer look, we did find out that in order to sell their property, because of the lack of inventory for the specific type and style of product that they have, the house should, according to today's market, sell relatively quickly. During the consultation, I made sure to take detailed notes of all of what was in the home so that when they are ready, we simply need to fill in the data input form for the listing, as well as the listing contract, agency disclosure, and property condition disclosure statement, so that we can have all of those forms filled in so that we can send it to them for electronic signatures when they are ready to get their house listed for sale. We also made sure to measure the property so that we know accurately how many square feet the property has, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and the size of each room as well, so that we have all the data that we need. We just literally need to input it for when the time is right. I also made sure to explain to Sarah the timeline of what it would look like if and when they were ready to put their property officially on the market. Number one first concern that we need to address is the fact that if I'm giving you a market evaluation today, that doesn't mean that the price I'm suggesting today will be exactly the same as the price when we officially list it for sale, especially if you're not going to be listing in the very short-term near future. Real estate prices go up and down, so always be mindful and make sure that you explain to the seller that prices could change by the time we officially get it ready to list for sale. But let's say, for example, if you were ready to get it up and on the market today, what we would do is we would send you the documents for signatures. Once we have that filled in, then we would be able to book the photographer, usually within a day of having our contract signed. From that point, it takes the photographer about 24 hours to get the photos back to us, and we can get the property up and on the market within 2 to 3 days. Keep in mind, when we go through the consultation, if there are any steps that need to take place in order to get the property ready for sale, whether it be cleaning, staging, decluttering, repairs, etc., that is one really great way for you to show the value of what types of improvements will help the saleability and potentially the price of the property when they're getting it ready for sale. In this example, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot required, but another additional option that you could entertain for sellers is an in-house listing agreement for when they're preparing their property for sale and or when they're shopping for a property, to make sure that if you do manage to find a buyer for their property, you can be a little bit more in control of the price, the terms, and the possession date specifically, because lining that all up with a purchase and a sale can sometimes be tricky, which is the reason why it's critical to find out whether you want to buy first or sell first. If you are looking to sell first, of course, the disadvantages might be B, you become a motivated buyer. And if you can't find the exact specific property that you want in the time that you want, you might lose the risk of your ability to port the mortgage in order to keep the existing interest rate, lower interest rate. You might risk losing that, but also you might need to move twice, which is obviously inconvenient. And in today's market, if the rental market is also tight, it might be difficult to find a suitable property to rent. And of course, you've got the expenses of renting, and of course, you've got the expenses of keeping some of your property in storage. And as soon as you go from selling to renting before buying, now there's also a little bit more market factors at play, and you are now playing the market a little bit more because there's a gap in period of time where you're renting and shopping for a house where your money technically is not in the market. If it's immediate buy and sell, then essentially it's a wash. If it's an up market or if it's a down market, it's totally a wash. Once we get the listing up and on the market for sale, we make sure to send the seller a copy of all the documents as well as the listing live so that they can check all of the details to make sure everything is 100% accurate and presented in exactly the light that they would like it to be. Once the listing goes live, we dive fully into our marketing strategy and we make sure to put in our calendar the times and dates that we plan to keep in touch with the seller in terms of updating them on what our activities are, what's happening in the market, and any adjustments we might need to make in terms of our active, proactive marketing strategy, and to see exactly where we fit in the market, if we are getting offers, if we are not getting offers, if we're getting showings, if we're getting feedback on those showings, etc. Of course, once you have the listing online and live, you've got to make sure that you give all of those transaction documents to your brokerage in whatever platform and whatever system that they require you to do so. Once you get an offer on the table, this is a very important scenario and situation when you're representing a seller because there's a number of different factors that you need to consider. One of them being what we'd mentioned before, which is your possession date, especially if they were looking to purchase and sell. You also need to be strategic in terms of what price the seller wants and what price the seller is looking to achieve, and finding common ground for both scenarios. If you want more information on negotiating deals, check out this video next. Once the offer is accepted, there will normally be a home inspection clause included in the sale. Now, when you're representing the seller, you need to make sure that if there's any due diligence that needs to happen on the property where the buyer and the buyer's agent need access to the property, you need to make sure and be on the ball to communicate that accurately with the seller to make sure that they know when specifically they need to be out of the house, similar to how they would need to be if there was a showing, so that everything goes smoothly during the due diligence period. Once the conditions are lifted on the property, of course, the sold sign goes up and you are now ready to send the documents to the title company, or in Canada, the lawyer's office, in order to make sure that everything is ready for that part of the procedure. Here's a list of things that the seller is going to need to transition from one property to another while moving. They might need to hire a moving company. They're going to need to transfer their insurance, their utilities, and of course, remember to change your mailing address for any schools that you're a part of, your driver's license, your banking, investments, credit cards, the government, your doctor, dentist, healthcare providers, and any other subscriptions that you're already a part of. When you are representing the buyer, it is a very similar scenario, although the difference now is that once you have an offer accepted, you need to be the one that schedules the home inspection and any other due diligence that takes place during a transaction. The first thing you need to remember is not to forget to submit the accepted offer documents to the lender along with the MLS listing information. If this does not take place immediately after the offer acceptance date, you could be a little bit behind the 8 ball, and you don't want to lose time in terms of the contingency period during this part of the process, because if it's a hot property and there's a backup offer and you're a day late, then you could potentially lose that property to somebody else. So timelines are very critical. On closing date, it is very common for an agent to meet the new purchaser at their property, to do a walkthrough of the property to make sure that there aren't any issues with the property, and if there are, that's something that they will need to communicate to the lawyers with and or the other agent as well. It's also a great opportunity for an agent to perhaps bring some sort of a closing gift to congratulate the new owners, and this is where the work really begins. Because once you have a past client, they might not move on average for another 7 years. But your ability to continue to add value long after the transaction is complete is where you really separate yourself from every other agent. And every year and subsequent year that you spend in the business, you will continue to see this pay dividends when you continue to invest in relationships and focus on relationships instead of transactions. I find agents fall into one of two categories when they ask a question about the real estate process. They are either just getting started or they really just want more organization to make these processes more streamlined. We use email templates for every single part of this process, and we have a checklist for a buyer, we have a checklist for a seller, we have a checklist for a new listing to make sure that when the more deals we do, the busier that it gets, we don't miss anything. So if you want to copy these documents, send me an email, send me a text message. My information's down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for being here today, and we'll see you on this video next. Have a fantastic day.